So the Chicago Bears are making yet another aggressive hire. And I don't know about you guys, this feels like a second Christmas to me. And the Bears hiring defensive coordinator Dennis Allen, already a pretty good gift. That's pretty much a done deal via league sources. But now they're setting up the offensive coordinator spot. And look no further than Detroit Lions offensive line coach Hank Fraley. Guys, this is just a monumental hire. And now this isn't just about the momentum in hiring the right coaches right now, just really getting them all lined up. This is also about bringing a ton of the Lions' offensive momentum over to Hallis Hall as well, along with Ben Johnson. And also, if you think about it, what was the worst thing about this team? I don't think you really have to think about it. It's the offensive line, right? We're also robbing a division rival of the best offensive line coach in the league over the last few years. And he's also going to have his guy right beside him as he builds and installs this offense. And this is just a massive get. And this is as the Lions continue to hemorrhage coaches. This is a guy that developed Sewell. This is a guy that developed Jonah Jackson. He developed these guys into Pro Bowlers. So let's talk about sacks allowed. Chicago, I hate even saying it, we just allowed 67 sacks. The last 3 years, Detroit only allowed 23, 31, and 34. And on top of that, 2 years as a top 6 rushing unit. And I mean, sure, there's a talent gap. I'm not an idiot. There is a talent gap. But it was pretty obvious these guys just were getting horrible offensive line coaching, a poorly communicated scheme, tons of different offensive coordinators, a lack of discipline. You know what? With this hire, this ends right now. 2 birds with 1 stone, assuring this offensive line is top notch, plus a seamless fit with Ben Johnson at OC. It's an absolute no-brainer. And also the added bonus of weakening the Detroit Lions. So Ben Johnson, he has clearly been busy, and there is nobody better as a source than Jeff Hughes over at the Bears blog. He is so good, and I trust him implicitly as far as his info. He's sharing that Ben was set to come to Chicago around Christmas time. Ben was already making plans, and he's excited to work with Poles, and his front office questions were answered very succinctly. Warren is out of the football ops side. Ryan and Ben can cook. And man, what a press conference today. I loved that we heard from Ben saying one of the things that attracted him to the job and that he wanted to stay in the division is that he really enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. Just a little tidbit. What a great press conference. I'm going to get back to the subject here. So from what we're hearing as well, Dennis Allen and now Hank Fraley, also a special teams coach that I'm covering tomorrow as that develops. These names were talked about in the remote interview from the start. Further supporting this from the Detroit side, and I'm going to close this down. So I want to support this from the Detroit side as well. And according to Fox Sports' Carmen Vitali, among many others, this is what she had to say. People with the Lions believe that the Detroit offensive line coach, Hank Fraley, that he will indeed follow Johnson to the Bears as offensive coordinator. And this is the direct quote. I think that's a foregone conclusion in Detroit, that Hank Fraley is going to go right along with Ben. Now, keep in mind something. These coaches cannot be hired immediately, and every source I can find is saying that this coaching hire is happening along with Dennis Allen. And there's also a matter of the Rooney Rule. 2 external minority candidates have to be interviewed for a head coach position, but only 1 for coordinator jobs. That still needs to happen for both of these coaching spots. And Fraley coming to town, it doesn't only allow Ben Johnson to communicate and install his offense and to have his offensive line coached exceedingly well. This is going to go a long way toward drafting well up front, doing a better job in free agency, and also developing every single guy on this offensive line to get the absolute most out of them. This staff is looking to be so good. Like people are saying, it's starting to look like the Avengers. And Fraley, who's been with the Lions the last 6 seasons, he's developed the Lions offensive line into one of the best in the NFL. And he has been here the whole time in Detroit with Ben Johnson building this offense. It is a huge get if he comes to Chicago, and I think he's going to. So he'd consult and manage the whole offensive line while Johnson calls the play. There's also some competition. Let's be honest here. That's the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think they're stiff competition, but they are the other teams that are looking for Hank's services. They brought him in for a second interview yesterday, but word is out that he's going to follow Ben to Chicago. And in addition to coaching Detroit's offensive line, Fraley, he also helped the Lions with their rushing attack. Detroit has had one of the best running games over the last 2 seasons. You guys know that. And it makes it no surprise why Ben Johnson wants him to join his new team. This season, the Lions were ranked number 6 in rushing. They averaged 146.4 yards per game. That's a fantastic average. And he was also a valuable asset as a player in the league. He was no slouch. I mean, Fraley was an established starter in the NFL as a center. He played 10 years in the league with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cleveland Browns, and the St. Louis Rams. So what says a lot is what your players think of you. I mean, players, of course, are really reticent to lose a coach that means something to them. And I want to finish this video kind of on the Detroit side because I think previous players and the previous team that a coach is on, it says so much about what kind of coach he's going to be with the Chicago Bears. So we're looking at when the Lions cleaned out their lockers on just this last Sunday, center Frank Ragnow and right tackle and their right tackle, they both addressed the possibility of losing Fraley when the topic came up. And to me, like once again, this is really telling about the kind of coach we're going to be getting here. In line with how good the Detroit Lions offensive line is, once again, he's being seen by the Seahawks, but it's also possible. It's also possible that, man, he is such a good coach. This is such a good get. So let's just hear straight from Ragnow. He was asked directly about potential offseason changes. No, you refuse to let Frank leave, not Hank leave, Ragnow said. I haven't played in this league without Hank, and I don't plan on doing it. I'll sabotage him. I'll leak stories, whatever it takes. And then he was asked a follow-up question about what Fraley, I mean, he arrived as a Lions assistant offensive line coach the same year that Ragnow was drafted. That was in 2018. What he means to him. And Ragnow did not hesitate. He said, I don't think I could play in this league without the guy. He is everything to me. He's been there since day one. And in this league, there's a lot of coaches, but there aren't many coaches like him that empower his players. And really, it's an open dialogue. He really does everything he can to put us in the best positions to be confident and go out there and play well. And then he reiterated how Fraley being a former center, how that has impacted him. And this is, once again, this is from Frank Ragnow. Again, I've said it before, but him being a former center in this league has been invaluable to me, talking about how we see things. Not only him giving me advice, but me telling him how I see it and him being willing to listen. I think that's so rare. Just so grateful for him. And then let's hear from Sewell. He echoed a lot of the same love. So this is from Sewell. Yeah, it's the same as me. He's not going nowhere at the end of the day. He's not going nowhere. He's just been one of those pillars for me in this organization. When I first came in, I fell in love with him. We got a history too. He was recruiting me in high school and he was at UCLA. So whole lot of history between us. Our relationship has grown. He's like Coach Dan Campbell in terms of a figure in my eyes. So he's not going nowhere. I don't think they have any control over that, but their sentiment when it comes to him. And I think the Bears need to move really quickly. Let's get those Rooney interviews done. They need to employ the same aggression that they use in bringing Ben Johnson to Chicago. Act fast. Get the deal done. And once again, get the best guy for the job. And I think the best guy for the job is this guy. And the front office assured the Bears that there would be zero barriers to assembling the best staff top to bottom. Here's yet an opportunity for them to put their money and their actions where their mouth is. And all the indications are that this is a completely different Bears organization, the way that this front office is running. Just simply that they didn't even drag their feet on the Ben Johnson hire. They got a really concise and really detailed and really thorough three hour, I believe, Zoom interview to observe NFL rules. And then they already had their decision made. And they also made the impression on Ben Johnson that that's where he wanted to be. Didn't even bring him in person to the building. They hired him on the spot, and also they paid him what he was worth. So you guys let me know what you think about this offensive coordinator hire. I think it's the right guy. I think it's the right fit, and I think it's going to happen very quickly. You guys bear down, and thanks for your loyal viewership. So blessed by you, and we'll talk soon. See ya.